So I've recently kind of rekindled my interest in the old Coleman pressure lanterns. I've actually found myself using it around the house a lot lately if I'm having to go outside and do some work at night or even here in the shop. And we'll get a little more detail here in a minute, but if you're not familiar, these have the ability to run off of gas from the gas station, pump gas. But overall, if I'm picking one lantern I'm going to take out to a campsite, it's going to be this guy. Right now, I just got this used Model 288. So I'll kind of walk you through some of the basics of these while I fire this up for the first time. Okay, so first things first, this is going to need some new mantles. Now, mantles are the things that glow and put off the light, for lack of more in-depth explanation. So all we do is remove this little thumb nut, and then we can take our globe off. And now you can see these mantles, these are very delicate. As you can see, they kind of just will fall apart and crumble apart. Coleman recommends that you change your mantles once a year, but the way these things are, you're probably gonna have to change them more than that anyways. But once you got the old mantles off, you'll get your two new ones out of the package. You can just buy these at Walmart or wherever. You see there, it's just a little bag with a string. So I'm gonna put this over this little flange here, cinch it down, and just tie it with a square knot or whatever. Left over right, right over left. Tighten that down. Now you want to take and you want to trim this off so these strings aren't hanging all over the place. Okay, now the fun part. You take yourself a match, light it. Just going to let these mantles just burn. Okay? You can see as that works around the whole mantle and burns it all in. And once you can see those have all finished smoldering, now your mantles are burned in. Okay, now we're going to try and fire this thing up for the first time. Put our globe back on. Now, since this lantern was used, I emptied all the old gas that it had in it. You don't want to run old gas and stuff. So now we'll fill it with fresh gas. And now listen, generally, you want to run this white gas stuff in the lanterns. Running pump gas is not really going to foul your lantern. It's more of if you leave pump gas in the lantern, that's where you're going to run into issues. Pump gas just doesn't store well. This stuff is just basically really clean gasoline. And I always just put the funnel right there so I don't lose it. Okay, now before we light this thing, so we're going to pump this up. One turn loosens up the valve in there, allowing air to enter into the tank. We're pressurizing this tank, okay? Put your thumb over the hole, and you just start pumping. About 30 times. I'll show you one little test you can do here. Once you have this pumped up, put the pump down. Don't tighten it. Just take your thumb off, and that should just stay right there. It shouldn't move. And what that's checking is there's a check valve. There's a valve in the bottom. Basically, kind of think of a hamster feeder. You know the things that hamsters drink out of? How there's the ball that only lets the water come in one way? Like when they push on the ball, the water comes down. That's basically what's in there. It allows pressure to go into this tank, but not out. So if you let off this and then it slowly backed out, then that would mean that your check valve is bad. And I'm actually going to have to be repairing a check valve on this stove in another video if you guys want to check that out. Okay, so your lamp is pressurized now. Everything is closed. You're basically looking, listening, and smelling for any leaks. Now it's the moment of truth, guys. So get you some matches. Any matches will be fine. They don't need to be special matches. Different models of lanterns vary on the lighting procedure. This one's pretty simple. It just has one knob. But here's what's important is you want to light your match, put your match in the globe, then turn on your gas. And there we go. This thing's lit. Probably the first time it's been lit in who knows how long. But now right after I light it, you lose pressure when you're lighting it, you know, just kind of priming it. So unscrew it again and put about 15 pumps back into it at least. And looky there, guys, we got light. So now I like to take these and hang it on this nice big S hook I have up here. And you can see it really cranks out some light in here. Now, these Coleman pressure lanterns were invented in 1914, all right, so way back. Now let's think about something from back then. Back in 1914, you didn't have an electrical grid like we have now. Think about it in terms of like, if you go out to a rural area, you'll have trouble getting high-speed internet. I'm assuming that it was kind of the similar thing back then. The light is an essential part of, especially in a modernized world, keeping up with the flow of things. Because once night comes and you need to do work outside, you don't have light, you can't do it. Which brings us back to our Coleman lanterns here. These put out about 800 to 1,000 lumens, depending on the model. And like I said, when you can run these on pump gas, compared to something like kerosene or a battery-powered lantern, it's gonna be cheaper to run one of these, while also also putting out more light. Another thing to consider is with a gasoline lantern, it's reliable when it gets cold, okay? Batteries, they start dying when it gets cold. I mean, a battery lantern is nice. You can flip it on and you can flip it off. That's definitely one of the advantages. Also, the battery doesn't put off heat, all right? These lanterns definitely put off heat. When I have it going in this little shop in here, I can tell I have it going because it's warmer. And on that note, you have to be careful because this is burning gas, so it's putting off fumes that you can't breathe. So putting this in an enclosed area, not gonna be a good idea, right? I'll do some tests with the carbon monoxide detector in the future with some different scenarios, I think. But ultimately, my point is, if you don't have the ability to just flip on a light switch and have some light outside, imagine how handy it'll be having a nice bright lantern like this. Also, as an emergency source, I'll go back to that it can run on pumped gasoline. You can find gasoline anywhere. I also want to touch on this again. Yes, they can run on pumped gasoline. Technically, only the dual fuel models are what Coleman suggests you run them by, but people have been running pumped gasoline through these for years. If you're going to run pumped gas, do not store it with pumped gas, right? But let's just be real. Ultimately, just use the white gas, right? It's not that much. Sometimes you can find it as cheap as $7 for this gallon. But for how much I'm guessing most people are going to use this, it's not a big deal. Now, if I'm going to use this every day, I'm probably just going to run pumped gas through it. Let's say, for instance, if you're on an off-grid little cabin or something, you need light, this would be perfect for that, you know? Again, it runs good in winter, which is kind of my baseline for rating the quality of something. How is it going to work in winter? Because winter, in my opinion, is the true test of any equipment, gear, whatever. Coleman does make kerosene pressure lanterns as well. Kerosene is more expensive. Personally, I just don't see the advantage. Everyone is familiar with the old hurricane lantern. These are good to have around as well, no doubt about it. I'm not really trying to compare these. It's not a fair comparison. You're comparing a pressure lantern to just a wick, basically a large candle. Listen, guys, this Coleman stuff is a really cool thing to get into. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, garage sales, yard sales, auctions. I got this lantern for $25. Brought it home, fired it right up. That lantern that we've been messing with in this video, I got that lantern and this stove all for 20 bucks. It's a cool little hobby thing to do, which you're not going to have to spend a lot of money on to kind of have a little fun with. And also, once you fire these up, you're going to find you're probably going to start using it, you know? And Coleman uses the same concept of running off this white gas with their stoves as well, okay? And if you guys want to check that out, you can click on this video here. I'm going to be firing up this stove actually for the first time. I have to do a little maintenance to it first. And something else that I haven't talked about is I have this 1960 Apache canvas wall tent / camper hybrid. Very cool thing, but definitely going to be keeping one of these in the outfit for that. And again, I have a video if you guys want to check that camper out here. But otherwise, guys, keep checking back in with the channel, and thanks for watching.